government is behaving like they know very well that they are going to win this battle by the end of the day. That's why they will confidently walk out of the partisan talks and say, well, you want them crushed, let them crush. That's why they can confidently go right ahead and even move into signing the finance bill into law when they know very well that there is an opposition side that says, should you sign this into law, we're going to go back to the streets. But then they move ahead and sign it without even waiting for the court proceedings to actually end. William Ruto didn't have 2 weeks. He would have stayed for 2 weeks with that document, Nabiswa. 2 weeks, not even sign it. He didn't have to sign it. He would have said, well, I didn't sign it because I did wait. But if we know exactly what the law says, it would have essentially then just automatically become law. But he didn't have to sign it. But just yesterday, on a Monday, he put it into law, telling you he's a man who essentially is well aware that he's got the arsenal to win whatever battle that the opposition throws at him. Is that a picture, or there's something we're not reading into the actions of the government in this case?
Okay, before I get there,
yes.
Wachira said something about Azimio coalition. The reason why Martha Karua and Kalonzo Musyoka are still bit together. You know, Elijah, the reason why Azimio failed to be pronounced as the majority party in the parliament, you know, during that debate, the Speaker of the National Assembly said UDM, MBG, and a number of members of parliament who pronounced that they are in Azimio have moved to work with the government. Yes. During the first day. The Speaker requested a legal document that binds them together. I didn't see anything come up. What from the majority
from the Azimio side.
From the Azimio side.
Yes.
What Junet brought in the parliament was some minutes which are not even signed by the parties, which are saying that they are moving. So actually,
yes,
I really doubt if there was a clear binding agreement that brought together
yes.
the Azimio parties together.
Which was
and up to now,
yes,
up to now, even the said parties, you remember Kingi, Alfred Mutua, them saying that let them bring the document that binds us together as Azimio coalition, because there is nothing like that. There was nothing like that. And I presume the Azimio, it was just an association or a CBO, which, okay, whose aim was to take Raila Odinga to the presidential election.
Yes.
But I doubt if there was an agreement.
Yeah.
Now, this is the reason. And this is one of the reasons why Azimio is facing these challenges. You know, one, they have minority, as we say, because those people who associated with Azimio and were elected with Azimio crossed. They have the minority. Now, if anything comes up in parliament, William Ruto, as the president, he's very confident that there is nothing that can come to parliament from his side or what he wishes that the parliament can shoot down. Now, another thing, you know, the current Azimio and the president, actually, they have come to a point where we are seeing some empty threats from their side. You know, the only thing that can be done by Azimio right now is calling for demonstration, because that's the only weapon they have.
Yes. How effective is this weapon, Nabiswa? Because they would like to think it's quite effective. It's the one that gave them the bipartisan talks. Yes, and if you do remember very well, it is the Azimio coalition that pulled out of the negotiations, isn't it? So they know very well that when it comes to having an upper hand in this kind of battle, then going to the street essentially makes people look at what it is they're talking about.
You know, the aim is actually, I think, even themselves know that there is no, we don't have an end game on this. They know, after all, we will go for demonstration.
Yes.
People will end up rioting, but there is no end results. What do they want to do?
Would you like to think so, that there's no end result?
Actually, it's not there. Demonstration were
Let me
there
say,
for
you
almost.
will say that. They got an end result. They were called onto the table. They negotiated, and because they didn't like the negotiation from the government side, they pulled out.
But now, even if you go for they went for demonstration for around 4 weeks or so.
Yes.
They were given a chance to go into bipartisan talks.
Naza.
After getting there, what happened?
They pulled out.
They pulled out.
And
the reason
yes.
why is they are
Yes.
saying the government is doing what the government is doing is frustrating us.
And they say the word serious. And so let me just remind you. They say that should we detect any sort of unseriousness from the government, we're going to pull out. And they pulled out. They met through their threat. So you will say there is an end game. Yes.
Okay. The reason why, the main reason why the demonstration were there, the main reason that that made them to call for demonstration was the status of the economy, prices of the commodities.
And knowing
they
who
were
was
given
who
an
was the true
opportunity.
winner of the elections, they say.
Yeah,
yes.
They were given an opportunity. But now when they went for these bipartisan talks, what did they give the priority? The priority number one on that table, or on the table, was reconstitution of the IEBC, and I think a reinstatement of the
other commissioners.
Cherera 4.
Yeah, yes.
There was a funny request that they want the government to stop meddling into Jubilee affair.
Yes.
Actually, the major thing why we believed that the bipartisan should have come in place was the state of our economy, but it was put at around position number 4. And now all the first three, where they want now the government to address.
Yes.
The government is telling, the other team from the government side tells them we don't have the legal powers over them. If there is in terms of reconstitution of the IEBC commissioners, it is there in the constitution. What should be done? If it is a reinstatement of the 4, you know what happens. Some have resigned voluntarily. Some, actually one who was declared by the commissioner that he should be, I think, expelled or removed from the commission. Now, when it comes to the cost of living, the government had given its view that we are going to give a long-term solution, and that is their step, their position. Now, for them coming up with other things which doesn't look serious to the issues which affects mwananchi, because how does opening the server affect me as a common mwananchi? How does reinstating Cherera 4 affect me as mwananchi? So they came with misplaced issues or agendas on the table.
I'll be coming back to you because they did justify essentially why they wanted the servers opened, why they wanted the IEBC commissioners reinstated. Mr. Wachira, let me pick your thoughts on the bipartisan talks. Just a bit of background, essentially, how we got to the bipartisan talks, by the way. It is because Ruto essentially read menace in the Kenyan economy. All of a sudden, even the tourists who are arriving in the country were getting those directives. Take care. Kenya right now, as we do know of it, is going through political instability. I mean, that's essentially what you call it, regardless of how the demos ended or how they were getting conducted. Then they got the bipartisan talks. Don't you think, then, that if indeed it's going to be essentially no black and white in how the government, the parliament is going to support this bill, because even the muted support of it by Ruto, essentially, you would read into the fact that maybe he's red, where his members of parliament are. The Kenya Kwanza allied members of parliament, you did see how majority of them spoke. They're like, well, this is something that would have to come to the House, and then we debate on it. If the bipartisan talks were going to end in the National House, Azimio coalition know very well that is a dead end. If indeed there is a bill that is getting proposed by the president, like, okay, let's come up with an opposition bill. Azimio coalition know very well that when it comes to the nitty-gritties of that bill, they might not get the right juice out of whatever is being minted in the National House. So don't you think then that the only magic bullet that they have is to go back to the street so that it becomes an issue of Ruto versus Raila Odinga, just like it has been for Raila Odinga?
Elijah, the bipartisan talks was actually another way
Yes.
to, of course, buy time for the Kenya Kwanza side to address and attend to matters governance. Going back to the streets is all about politics. William Ruto is a president of a country. He's running a government. So his priority right now is the management of a country, not political scores.
Yes. Listen, in managing a country, Mr.
Yes.
Wachira, you got to make sure that your political scores are settled.
Yes, and I'm coming to that.
Yes.
That is why they did not reject the calls for a bipartisan talks. If anything, they were very welcoming. They appointed their 7-member team. Raila's side came up with their 7-member team. Now, the framework of the bipartisan talks
Yes.
has a clause. It is clause 3738, which says if there are issues on which both sides are failing to agree upon, the co-chairs, that is Otiende Amolo, is it?
Yes.
And Honorable David Muragara,
Yes.
something like that. They're supposed to meet and iron them out and then resume. Again, the bipartisan talks, the Raila Odinga, and I like what my brother has said, and indeed he's spot on. He has said that the bipartisan talks were arrived at by the Azimio side, one, on a political agenda, not an economic one. They were saying reconstitute IEBC, that is a body that handles our elections, that is politics. They were saying open the servers, that is towards the election results, that is politics. They were saying stop meddling with the Jubilee, which is our affiliate party, that is politics. Then finally, they talk about the economy. I want to just let the Kenyan people know.
Yes.
We are living in a most interesting and important new era and new time in this country. Because for the first time, Elijah, the economic agenda, the economic status of this country has taken center stage, subject to the finance bill.
That's it.
We're no longer now talking about who lost the elections and who won the elections, who stole the elections and all that. That is no longer the topic of the day.
Yes.
And to just put it in the correct media language, it is no longer trending. All right? So the first point at which the bipartisan talks were formed, they arrived at, was from the streets. Yes, Raila Odinga made a score very well. Let's go to the bipartisan talks. Then they blunder. They put their priorities wrong. The least one is the economic agenda, of which they would be really making the big scores. They start with the political agenda. Now, for them, they have a good opportunity. And this is what I think. Now that they themselves on their side have said, these bipartisan talks, we have suspended them. It has not collapsed. They said, we have suspended it. All right? And that is why earlier I said, having suspended it, let them consider the official opposition office. Number two, they have to go back to the streets. That's all they can do. Because one, in Parliament, they've been losing. They've not won at any point. At the Senate, the same. Okay? At the judiciary, the same. So they go back to the streets, right? Raila does what he does best. Let me use this word. Gaslights the people, his followers and all that.
Yes.
They go Monday, they go the next Monday, they're tear gassed and everything. Before they know it, something else in our society will start coming up. Because the so-called hustlers will say, hey, wait a minute. I'm not actually gaining from anything because I am actually destroying the property of the person of whom we share the same economic strata, right? The Boda Boda guys you saw already yesterday, they've been given some goodies. They're gonna bite, all right? So in my thinking, and I hope I'm not getting out of context,
Yes.
is that yes, Raila Odinga, the best weapon he has is to go back to the streets. But like you said, what's the end game? Like Nabis was saying, what's the end game? The first end game was to come to the bipartisan talks and do what he did in 2013, 2017 and say, okay, fine, let's change the constitution, serikali and usumukazi. And nobody wants to say that directly, but I dare say, that was the end game.
Yes.
In fact, towards the bipartisan talks, that was the end game. That is why he's saying, we'll go back to the streets.
That's it. That's it.
But it's not going to happen. I can tell you that for a fact.
What would you say then confidently say it's going to happen when indeed the first round of this street demos essentially gave him the bipartisan talks, Mr. Wachira?
Thank you very much. Why I don't think it's going to happen, it's because of one thing. The only way that we're going to say that we're going to have a Raila Odinga or any side of the Azimio becoming part of government,
yes,
the so-called coalition government for the sake of the people, the sake of the economy, it will require once again, a constitutional amendment. Now, we the Kenyan people, we the taxpayers, will be now sheep-herded towards another, what is it called? They're going to come back to us and say, okay, fine, let us take it back to the people
Yes.
and run about and ask them whether they think it's right or not.